What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Demon Reads Comics. Today we're going to talk about a book that when I first started reading it, I was like, what the heck is going on here? I'm not going to lie to you guys, it was a very slow read at first, but after a while, I got into the story so much that I quite enjoyed it. So, that book that we're going to talk about today is Revival. This was a weird book because, it's not something I'm actually used to reading. It is kind of like that crime noir thing that I was kind of looking for, but there was something weird about this. And I don't know if I'm not sure if the crime noir is what kind of got me hooked at first, but the story in itself was a little bit more complicated and a little bit more in depth. And so, like I said, at first it was a slow read because I was like, okay, what the heck is going on? What is this about? This is weird as F. But the more I read it, the more I went through it, the more it kind of pulled me in, and I was like, okay, this is actually a very good story in itself. But the ending kind of was like, okay, I see now. But I don't know. The whole story in itself was great. The ending just kind of didn't do it for me. But I get to how to explain the certain events. So first and foremost, let's talk about Revival. This is the Compendium. It collects issues 1 through 47, which is the complete story of it. It even collects the crossover story with Chu, with Officer Chu in the Chu Compendium story, and a variant cover gallery for the back. And now, who is this by? This is by Tim Seeley and Mike Norton. Give me 1 second, actually. Colors by Mark Englert, and lettering by Crank. Cover and chapter art by Jenny Frison. So, yeah. There we go. And published by Image Comics, and of course, it being the Compendium, it's a glued binding. What I really like about this is I actually opened this like this when I was reading it all the way, and there's no crease in it like there was in Fatal. But yeah, this was a very interesting story. So let's go ahead and crack this open. I'll tell you guys a little bit about the story and kind of go from there. All right, guys. So here it is, Revival. Let's crack this open. And like I said, this is a really big book. There's like 1,000 pages in it. No, there's 1,000+ pages. So like I said, this story takes place in Wisconsin, as you guys can see here. This is the quarantine zone, as you can see, area. It does take place in Wazoo, Wisconsin. And the story in itself, it takes place with a lot of characters. You get introduced to quite a few characters. Like, for example, you get introduced to Mai Tao. She's a reporter. You get introduced to, you eventually find out who this guy is. He's a reviver. So what is the story? Here, let me flip through this. What is the story of Revival? So Revival is a story about, on January 1st, a bunch of people died. On January 2nd, some of those people that died in this area came back. When they come back, they're not like zombies. They're not like out there trying to eat brains and cause harm. But people start noticing there's something off with them, right? So that they call them revivers. The people that came back, they don't know if it's a scientific thing. They don't know if it's a religious thing. They don't know why they came back. And so they send in people, they quarantine the area, things like that. Which is an interesting part in itself. But the main characters that it has to do with is... Hold on, let me flip through this. So the main characters that it really focuses on is this group right here. This is police officer Dana Cypress. It mainly focuses on her. She has a dad, which is his name is Sheriff Wayne Cypress. He's the sheriff of the county. And then it has to do with her sister M. They call her M, but her name is Martha. Martha Cypress. She's a college student. It really focuses on this family, but overall it focuses on the two sisters. It focuses on Dana, and it focuses on Martha. Now, what is the story about the revivers? So, you eventually find out why they came back. Initially, when I was reading this, I thought it was like some alien thing. Like, I thought this was an alien. You eventually find out what this is. So that was the kind of good part about it. But, because at first when I read it, I was like, no, I'm not going to get into it. This isn't for me. I'm not a big alien, outer space type of thing, sci-fi thing. But when you find out what this is, you're like, okay, it makes sense. So what happened was some of the revivers came back for a specific reason. You find out what that specific reason is. The revivers can't really die unless you do something serious to them for them not to come back. But there is a way to actually make them go away for good, and you find out what that way is in the story, which I don't want to give away. But an overall plot of this story, it has to do. Give me a second. Let me just kind of flipping through it so you guys can see the beautiful art. I was so used to the Sean Phillips art and the Ed Brubaker story that when I picked this up, I was kind of like, this is weird. But it's weird because I was so used to the other of it. But this is actually great storytelling. A little bit too much, like it kind of dragged a little bit in my opinion. But overall, the art is beautiful. There's a lot of violence in here and brief nudity. But the main story in itself has to do with these two characters, Dana Cypress and her sister M. Right off the bat, you actually, because this is in the very beginning, so it's not really a spoiler. Right off the bat, you actually find out that Martha M is actually a reviver. She was murdered on January 1st, and that's up to Dana Cypress and Martha Cypress to find out who killed her. In a nutshell, though, Martha doesn't really care who killed her. She just wants to know why. On the other hand, Dana wants to know who it was so she can get justice. So that's kind of the main story of this revival. There is a lot of people, like I said, you get introduced to. Not only do you get introduced to Dana Cypress, Martha, Wayne. Dana has an ex-boyfriend named Derek. Derek has a girlfriend named Nikki. You got Mytal, the reporter. You got Cooper Cypress, which is Dana's son. You get Lester Magic, which is some low famous guy in the county. You get introduced to Edmund Bolt, which I'm not going to get into him because the way he is kind of gives spoiler. But you get introduced to him. You get introduced to Janine. You get introduced to Abraham, which is a CDC guy. You get introduced to quite a bit of characters. Do most of those characters matter in the story? I don't want to say yes and I don't want to say no. But what I do is it gives more depth to the story in itself. So that's kind of the main plot of this story, of the whole book itself. It's a really great story. It was a slow burn read at first. At first, I wasn't really into it. Like, it took me a while to probably about, not even chapter 2, to about chapter 7, issue 7 of the comics. 7 or 8 to really be like, okay, this is actually a great story. What I don't like about it, though, in a nutshell, is that it kind of moves around the town too much. What I mean by that is you get one or two, maybe 3 pages, and then it jumps to a different part of the city. Like, for example, right here, they're at the Schofield Cafe. You get 1, 2 pages of it, and then it jumps to the Rothschild Police Department. You get 1. I'm sorry. So Abraham, the guy I was telling you about, his last name is Rahman, Dr. Rahman, CDC agent. But at the Rothschild Police Department, you get 1, 2, 3, and then it jumps to the University of Wisconsin Marathon County. It jumps a lot to different places in the county, in the city. But to the point where at first I was like, this is kind of dumb. I don't like it. But you get used to it so much that I stopped even reading where I was at, because I was like, okay, I know we're here. I know we're there. So you kind of get used to it. You get kind of so pulled into it that right where you kind of start seeing the artwork, you kind of already know where you're at. And it's kind of awesome that they did it that way. That's the kind of thing, the only thing that kind of pulled me away from it, though. Other than that, the story was freaking amazing. And I can't really say much more about that than I have already, because I'm not going to give too much away. But it's an interesting story. And believe me, it's not some extraterrestrial stuff. That's all I'm going to say about that. There is a reason why the revivers came back. There's a reason for that. You do find out at the end who killed Martha. That right there, when I found out who it was, I did not see that coming, because I was like, okay, it was this guy. No. It was this guy. No. It was this person. No. And when we finally find out who it was, that twist at the end, I was like, holy crap. Although the end of it, I didn't really like, but there's a specific reason why I didn't like it. but I'm not going to get into it. But they do kind of put in little stories to help you understand how they're going to end it, if that makes sense. But now I'm just going to grab a thick piece, a whole bunch of pages, and kind of flip through it so you guys can see the art. And like I said, it is very graphic, pretty gory, no nudity. There is a little bit of what's it called? They do cuss a lot in here from time to time, but not much. Like, look, she says a-hole right here. I'm not sure if I can say it in YouTube. That's why I didn't say it. But it's a good story. Like I said, you get introduced to a lot of people. Some of them matter, some of them don't. They're just part of the story, I guess you can say. But yeah, it's a good story. I really, really enjoyed it. I kind of wish it kept going further. I know they started making a TV series about this on Hulu. I think I just looked it up yesterday. I think they're on episode 2. So it's a fairly new story. I'm sorry, not story. It's a fairly new TV series. So if you guys want to wait for it, I wouldn't watch it right now because you're going to be waiting per episode. And I don't like doing that. I don't like watching like episode 1 having to wait a week, episode 2 having to wait a week. I hate doing that. I just kind of rather let it sit there, wait for all the episodes to come out, and hopefully they don't cancel the, season 1, season 2, because this was a great story. It was great. It was good enough for them to, pick it up and make it into a story. I'm sorry. It was a good enough story for them to pick it up and make it a TV show. So I really hope they don't cancel it. I really do hope they don't. The one thing I do like about this, though, they kind of introduce it kind of like the thing is, when something bad happens in the city, the government doesn't know how to react to it. So they start quarantining, is that how you say? They start closing off the area. And when they don't understand what's happening to some people, like if this were to happen in real life, when they don't understand what's going on with them, they treat them differently. And so while they don't actually per se put this in the story, I got hints of it, how they treated the revivers differently because they were so different. In a nutshell, it reminded me so much of different races of the Holocaust, because people were different, so they were, treating them differently. At one point, they, send the revivers to a camp to be studied, and even though they're being studied, and they're not telling the rest of the people what they're doing to the people. They're just saying that they're, keeping them in that camp for their own protection. They're studying them. And that's kind of why it drew me in more, because in a nutshell, there's a lot of aspects in life that it not only was not thrown in your face, but it was giving you hints of, if this were to happen in real life, this is how it was, this is how it would be. And I really like that in the sense that they were doing that. But yeah, eventually you find out what these are actually. That's pretty much that's pretty much all I want to give to that. I'm gonna flip all the way to the end, so you guys can see the cover art. There we go. These are the variant covers. These are freaking amazing. I'm sorry. Here we go. Book's so big, kind of falls over. You eventually find out who she is and why she's doing what she's doing. She's a reviver. He's not. His name is Abraham. Tao. You find out who this guy is. I'm going to tell you guys right now, this guy is crazy. He deserves everything that happens to him. If anything happens to him in this story, I don't like him. But they can you can't always have a story with everybody being good people, bad people. They have to kind of mix it in. So this guy is a piece of crap. So is this guy, actually. And this guy, too. Sorry, there's a lot of people that... Oh. It actually explains that in... there was a comic in here. I think it was like between chapter 35, 36, or maybe 37. There's a doctor that's in the camp explaining why people are the way they are at times. When something horrible happens, the process in their mind changes and they start acting differently. And it's kind of crazy when she starts explaining that. You start thinking back to these characters and you're like, that's why they are acting the way they are acting, These guys all deserve I hate these guys. Let me just put it that way. If I said anything else, spoilers. This guy's freaking awesome. I did like the Chew crossover in here. I didn't like it. Chew, if you guys don't know, is another complete different graphic novel comic series where it has to do with like this. I don't even know what he really is. Like in this story, he's part of the government now, working for a specific group. And his thing is when he eats something, he kind of can tell what's who ate it, if anybody was eating it, things like that. And because there was a crossover to it, I like that there was a crossover, but now I have to pick up that and, see how I like that. But like I said, I like it because I like the crossover, but I don't because I'm going to have to pick it up now and see what it was about. Even though it has nothing to do with this story, it just has to do with the crossover itself. These are some sketches about M, which I really liked. How she actually was portrayed in the comic and how she was supposed to be. How they were going to write her into it. I like that, actually. See, now this is how you see her now. The creeps. They're not actually called creeps. They're actually something different. But in the series, you actually find out what they're really called. But they call them creeps at first. Then you got Wayne, Lester, Aaron. Aaron, I didn't really mention him. He's actually a love interest to Martha. He's a professor at the university. But then you got Lester. And then you got Dana. Yeah, Dana. But yeah, that's pretty much it. And then you got a quick, I don't even think this is a biography like they've been doing it in the Ed Brubaker, Sean Phillips thing. It's just kind of like a little thing that they talk about. You got Tim Seeley, Mike Norton, Mark Englert, wow, Christopher Crank, and Jenny Friesen. So yeah, there you go, guys. I hope you guys like that. Let's go ahead and do the rating about this book and what I'm going to give it. All right, guys. So what am I going to rate this book? I'm not going to lie. I really enjoyed this story. It was a slow burn read at first, but I enjoyed the story in itself. I really enjoyed the art. I enjoyed the storytelling. I enjoyed the plot of the story. Yeah, it's a little bit long, but I think in overall that it being that long, maybe they could have done with a few, chapters and, not being in it. They didn't have to introduce so many characters, but in overall, I want to give this a 9. I really do want to give this a 9. I was going to give it an 8, but no. I went into this blindly. I think the only reason I'm giving it a 9 and not a 10 was because of how much it jumped around from little place to little place, like from this home, to the university, to the, to the police station, with 1 or 2 pages every single time. And so I think that's the only reason I'm going to give it a 9 and not a 10. So my overall rating for this book is a 9. I really, really enjoyed this story. Slow burn read at first, but I enjoyed this story. I highly recommend it if you guys want to read some crime, kind of not really sci-fi, but crime, not even religious. It's not even like a horror. It's kind of a horror thing in a sense. So if you guys kind of want to read like a crime horror series, this is it for you. I definitely recommend this book. Not only do I recommend it as a crime horror, I recommend it just as a great storytelling about family, about mother and child, about a dad and her her 2 daughters, about being a single parent, about how this world can be at times. It goes so in much more than the plot in itself. So that's why I'm giving this a 9, and I highly recommend it. And to kind of go over everything slightly again, it is by Tim. I keep calling him Tim Seeley and Mike Norton. Revival Compendium. They do make I think they make 4. Yeah, it's 4 deluxe hardcovers of it, and I think there's like 7 or 8 trade paperbacks. I think actually no, I think I saw 11 trade paperbacks. There might be more. I just didn't. But there's trade paperbacks of it. There's hardcovers, and then there's this compendium. I picked up the compendium because I didn't want to have 4 complete different books. I know I enjoy the hardcovers a lot more, but I figured if I can get the entire story in one, why not just go for it, right? Compendiums are kind of hit and miss because some of them are really, really good, especially made. What I mean by that is I read through this once. I've opened it, and there's no crease in the back. So this is a great compendium so far. Not like Fattel. I read it once, and there's already a crease down it. So, yeah. Revival by Tim Seeley, Mike Norton, published by Image Comics. There we go. I like that red. It's always white, but I like that it's red. And it is glued binding because it is paperback. So there you go, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed my review of this. I've actually seen a few reviews of Revival, but it was like maybe the first trade paperback, maybe the first issue, and that's about it. I couldn't find anything more about the entire story in itself. I didn't see anybody doing a review of the Compendium, so I decided I was gonna do it. Not because I didn't see it and I was like, nobody's done it, I'm gonna do it. No, obviously I'm doing my reviews not only for me but for other people to see, and so they can get a sense on whether or not they want to pick up the book or not. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys can give me a like so you guys can put help put my videos out there. If you guys read this series, let me know in the comments down below. Let me know if you guys enjoyed it. Let me know if you guys hated it. What you hated about it. Now that I've read it, please try not to give any spoilers away for other people that haven't read it. I don't want to give that away to people. This is kind of fairly new. I know this Compendium came out in 2024, but I'm sure I think it came out in like 2018, the story. But the Compendium came out in 2024. So like I said, if you guys read it, let me know what you guys liked about it. Let me know what you guys didn't like about it. But try not to give any spoilers away. And if you guys haven't done so already, check out my previous reviews. It really helps, build up my channel. And please, I ask if you guys can subscribe to my channel. It really helps also build my channel and get my content out there for other people. All that being said, we'll see you on the next one.